Well, welcome to your third podcast.
Yeah.
You must, I know you have a pretty good business. Would you mind giving us an overview of your business in 30 seconds?
Sure. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Do mostly fix and flip, but have several strategies. Have about 60 rentals. Those don't necessarily cash flow, so that's not for income, but kind of long-term holds. Primarily rely on inbound leads, so do a lot of kind of shotgun approach marketing rather than outbound cold calling. Some of that's shifting though, with the tide shifting just a little bit and marketing costs going up, but it's a
Got
brief
it.
overview.
So you primarily wholesale?
Primarily fix and flip, and do roughly 100 deals, 100 flips a year.
Man, that's crazy amount of fix and flips.
Yeah.
You have to manage all those contractors.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
I want to dive into that.
Cool.
So how did you get started and when was that?
I got started at the beginning of 2018.
Okay.
I'd been a real estate agent before, but I knew that wasn't my sweet spot. It felt inauthentic, and I was making very little money. Made like $20,000 in 2017, wife and 2 kids, and was not making it. And learned about wholesaling through podcast and YouTube, and decided to just give it a shot. And went out and started knocking doors, knocking foreclosures. Got my first deal in a weekend, made $5,000, and I was able to catch up all the credit cards that were maxed out, and finally pay rent that month, and that got me to the next month, and did 2 deals the next month. So that was the start in 2018.
Wow. So you actually started with wholesaling.
Started with wholesaling, and that bridged the gap and helped bring some money in, some capital.
What do you think about fixing and flipping, compared to being an agent felt more authentic to you?
I always felt like I had to kiss ass a little bit, or pretend to be this, agent. I'm showing these like $500,000 houses, but I can barely put gas in my car, and this like agent persona that big companies try to get you to push. It just didn't feel right to me, and it wasn't quite. I loved real estate, but it wasn't clicking for me.
What about the fix and flip feels more at home for you?
I was able to just sit down and relate to someone. And I'd been there before. I'd had to sell a house for less than market value. My wife was pregnant, and we both, she quit her job so that we could have our daughter. And I lost my job right about the same time. So I'd gone through, not having a house foreclosed, but coming very close to that. So I could identify. I grew up, in a trailer for many years, and so I'd been on the financial hardship, and that made a lot of sense, and I could relate to people on that level. But I had a solution, so I didn't have to pretend to be something I wasn't. I was able to really hear their story and offer a solution, and really earn that trust. And that was the difference.
Yeah. So from what I'm picking up, you were showing people a $500,000 house, and there was no real urgent need of theirs. In fact, they were just trying to find their next family home, and you felt pressure to kind of like sell this home. Maybe it felt like overselling it. I feel like agents feel pressure to do that sometimes. And you really connected more with people who truly needed something that you had experienced before, and you could connect with them to solve that.
Yeah, I think so. And over time, I learned that it's not a sales pitch. I think that's what I was trying to do on the agent side too. I was feature selling, bells and whistles, all of that stuff. But there's really no sales pitch. And in fact, meeting with sellers, I quickly learned to shut up. It's not about me. It's not about, most of the time I wouldn't share where I'd been, because it's really not about me. Go in and listen. If I can ask the right questions, eventually I can earn the respect and the trust, and provide a potential solution.
Yeah, as real estate investors, we're not making a sales pitch. We're actually not trying to make deals happen, but we're trying to find deals that need to happen in order to help somebody.
Right.
We're just seeking that person that's in a situation where their house has a tarp on the roof and they just had surgery. They're not going to be able to keep up with the maintenance of cutting the grass. And they also can't really sell their house in its current condition. They need the equity to move into an assisted living center. That's not a sales pitch. That's somebody who responds to some postcard marketing and they need to sell their house. It's a very easy conversation in my experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And people are, whether it's top of mind or some kind of subconscious, like people are very sensitive to BS or to like sales resistance. And I feel like some of the magic is leaning into the informal, leaning into the, not polished approach. Don't go in, meet with a seller and walk around the house just like every other real estate investor does. Like they're gonna say, oh, this carpet needs to get ripped out. These countertops, we're gonna rip these countertops off and have to change that. And they're trying to leverage, right, the cost of the renovations to get the price down. Meanwhile, the seller's thinking like, I made sandwiches on these counters for 25 years for my kids. There's nothing wrong with these counters. You're still driving a wedge. So I think listening to the story, like listening to why am I here? And not trying to, once again, not coming in with like a agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's listen to what someone has to say. And most of the time you'll find at the end of that conversation, they'll say, hey, no one's asked me the things that you've asked me. Even my family, I've been going through cancer, or, hey, I lost a spouse. And you'd be shocked how little friends or family even ask, like, how are you doing? How are you holding up? If we just ask those simple questions, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. Real estate investors, typically they will like bake a cake in their mind about how the conversation's going to go.
Yeah.
And when they get on the phone, it feels like they're ignoring what's being said because they've already decided what the conversation's going to be, and they're going to be telling them about the countertops next, even though they just said they lost their wife.
Bingo.
And it feels very disconnected.
Totally disjointed and disingenuous,
Mm-hmm.
right? They know, once again, like maybe subconsciously, that something's off. It doesn't feel natural. And it takes a minute to find that groove, but I think once you find that sweet spot and can just be present in the moment, good things happen.
You speak like somebody who does very well in those situations and enjoys connecting with sellers. I know you've also built a pretty sizable business. Do you still go on seller appointments in Atlanta?
I've started to more. We just went through a pretty big layoff and scaling down and trying to not right the ship, but we were built for growth. And 24 had a lot of challenges. So we were built for this heavy growth year that didn't come. I think some for some of our mistakes, and a lot of it was overall sales volume. So paring that down, I'm kind of backup option, but still going on those seller appointments.
It seems like you enjoy it.
I do. I love it. Yeah.
But previously you had hired those positions and you were not going on any of the seller appointments.
For shadowing or for training, yes.
Yeah.
But very rarely would I do those was I needed to do those. So we ended up keeping our top AM, acquisition manager. And that handles probably 80-90% of the volume. So I'll run a handful of appointments a week.
Got it. So your wife quit her job because she was having a second child. Oh, you have 2 kids?
2 kids.
Nice. So I'm sure that felt like a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And is your wife involved in the business at all today? Or is she totally focused on the kids?
She is. She does a lot of our interior design. She runs our utilities. So utilities are actually like on the fix and flip side, when you're actually taking title or buying the property.
You're always turning utilities off or on and transferring names.
Yeah.
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 It's a problem if it's not turned on and they need to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it gets out of hand, right? You've got 3-4 different utilities
Times 100 properties.
Exactly. It's nuts. So we have to build a whole system for that. But yeah, she helps in a lot of areas.
That's awesome. When did you do your first fix and flip and realize you don't want to do wholesaling, you want to do the fix and flip?
Marketing costs kept creeping up. Back in 2018, I think our cost was maybe $5,000, like on the
Per
PPC.
deal?
Yep,
Mhm.
around $5,000, and then that crept up to 10, and then it started creeping
wow.
up to 15.
Whoa.
Yeah, and our wholesale wholesaler assignment fee was averaging like 15 to 20. So it just got unsustainable to only do wholesaling.
Mm.
And some of the guys I was wholesaling to, I spent time with, and they were nice enough to show me the ropes of the flip.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually listing their properties after they were done with the renovation. I would sell it on the back end, so I got to see the final product. But came across one that was an easy like cherry pick, and started with one, and made a little bit more money. And so end of 18, beginning of 19, started peeling off the easy ones, and slowly took on more and more.
Slowly turned into 100 though. How does that happen in 5 years?
With a lot of help and a lot of geniuses. So me not being included, but learning from guys like Cody Hoffine and Mark Stubler.
Are you? I know they have a franchise, Joe Homebuyer.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a member of that?
I'm not.
Okay.
They did a course or like a weekend called Scale.
Mm-hmm.
So I attended that at the beginning of 21.
Mm-hmm. So did CJ, who just left.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That really gave the blueprint of going from just like solopreneur, one-man band to first hire. And that first hire was like very pivotal for me in 21. And he's still with the business.
What was the first hire?
I hired it as office manager, and he's now a VP of the company. So it's been an evolution.
Is that an operations role, VP?
Yes.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
What was his job as an office manager?
It was mostly paperwork in the beginning, processing contracts, kind of transaction coordination, and then grew to asset management, helping run some of the rentals as we got those. And it's turned into, he's an expert underwriter. He had flipped houses before in the past, so he had an eye and had some knowledge. But yeah, he runs the majority of the inner moving pieces of the business.
Got it. So if he flipped some houses before, how come he didn't want to keep doing that on his own?
I think there's a benefit to being part of a larger team or a larger purpose. And there's trade-offs for sure. So I think there's some safety and security in being part of a team, and mitigating risk. But, I've learned that not every single person has the exact same goals, right?
Right.
Both people can be ambitious, but it doesn't always look exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. Some people are uncomfortable with unknowns and what you called risk, and they see not having a structure to work within as a risky thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you probably aren't bothered by that. Your wife's probably okay with it too.
Comfortable,
seeing how you've
comfortable with risk
set on that path.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you've got to be. Someone told me if you've never lost money on a deal, you're probably not taking enough risks. Obviously, you've got to keep that in line, because you can very quickly get out of balance on that side. But there's probably been, over the course of 5 years, 5 to 10 deals that we've lost money on out of hundreds. But each time that happens, it stings, and you've got to, you've got to walk away. You've got to analyze that and understand, like, where did the mistakes happen? And that's helped us develop some of our processes and the underwriting system that we use now.
When you guys are underwriting a deal, do you line item every single thing that might need to be done in the rehab, or do you have like a cost average for this particular type of house that you apply based on square footage, perhaps?
It's not to square footage. That is a part of it, but it is more broad stroke underwriting. We know generally a up to a 2,500 square foot house, it's 45 grand to renovate. And we've got a blueprint, just the paint color is always the same. The fixtures are the same. It's a blueprint for every house. So 45 grand if it needs a roof, another 7,500 if it needs HVAC, 7,500. A driveway would be an additional,
big expense.
Yeah, big expense. But one of the biggest things that's helped our underwriting, we kept running into this common this common phrase, like, it's not that bad, or it's you would underwrite it like, well, it needs 20,000 in work. Well, 20,000, but what does that mean? So we came up with a property grading system, like a classification. What is the property currently in? And it's a A through F system. And then that ties into our exit strategies that have their own MAOs and formulas and underwriting. So the property grade relates to the different exit strategies possible, and then that connects to the formulas. So we can quickly underwrite if our acquisition manager's in an appointment. We always take a break for a phone call. And on that phone call, I don't have to see pictures. He'll say, ARV's 300, property grade C. There's 50,000 on the mortgage. Seller started at 275. I anchored at this. Seller's currently at 225. Our MAO is this. And that gives me what I need in less than 60 seconds. And then we talk about situation, negotiation, and what are the possible paths forward.
How does he decide what to anchor, which means he's stating a price and anchoring their brain to this price?
Our take on anchor is it needs to be plausible, but impossible. So if in a tighter deal, if on that 300 ARV, if the mortgage is 175, right, and they don't have cash to bring to the table, maybe we're anchoring at 165. We're very close to a payoff, but that kind of changes. It's a little bit more of an intuition than an exact science.
Got it. So you'll go below what they actually owe, but that's the anchor. You might actually end up writing a contract for a little bit more than what they owe.
Yes.
Got it. So the anchor is like a sales technique to get them to come to closer to your actual number.
It's to deliver the blow of what they may find other investors paying. Or, hey, if I'm going by the book, this is what I'm supposed to offer you.
Yep.
So it's meant to deliver the sting without the heat of them saying, well, you're lowballing me, right? So it's not attached to our offer. So
because then he gets to be the good guy because he's actually going to write a contract for above the anchor, whatever the anchor was.
Right.
Got it. Perfect. So your team, I know you said you felt like informal approach, but there is obviously good sales training that you're giving to your team to use a technique like that. Do you teach that yourself?
Yes. There's our sales Bible has never split the difference.
Yes.
So there's a lot of techniques in that, the tactical empathy, anchor, the way we phrase things, but generally it's, hey, if you're talking, you're losing. That's like the number one rule is ask questions and actively listen. So don't have that next question ready that's irrelevant to the answer that they just gave you, right? Like, go a level deeper, peel back the layers of the onion, really understand what they're communicating, because you can't take anything at face value.
That's really good advice. I always tell my team to be curious. Sometimes they get too focused on whatever our policy is and they have lost the opportunity to learn something.
Yeah, insatiably curious. And that shows you care. If best way to be interesting is to be interested, and having that like childlike curiosity going into anything is like, it's a major advantage. You actually sparked kind of an idea. When I met you 2-3 years ago at Brandon Bateman's mastermind,
Yeah.
you said that you had just taken a class or been through a course on storytelling.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
So I've not done that, but it made me think like, man, how do you, I would imagine, maybe you can give me some insight, but the way a story's told or the phrasing or like evoking some kind of emotional response in the way that you communicate an idea, I would imagine that's powerful. Maybe that's part of
the most simplest structure I always remember from that class, whether I'm trying to tell a story to you or write a post on social media or write an email, is once upon a time this happened, and because of that this other thing happened, and because of that this other thing happened, and because that last thing happened, therefore I learned this thing. And so it's the very basics of storytelling in like a nursery rhyme format. You know, we're all used to those nursery rhymes that start, well, once upon a time this happened. And you can have as many of those as you want along the way, but then it always should end in resolve with a clear through line of what all those things lined up to teach you going forward.
That's cool.
That was a cool class.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind going back. I've took several actually, 1, 2, and 3.
Oh.
And people actually paid $10 to hear me tell a story.
Okay.
Yeah, super fun.
Was it like an online
No,
course?
it was in person, which was even better. Yeah.
Interesting.
And the people who paid $10 were just the other classmates, family, and friends. But I was still there on stage.
I've always been curious if like a improv class or a something like that would help acquisition managers or help on our side, just being able to think on our
Yeah, that's where the term bake a cake comes from too. I took a few of those as well.
Okay.
And if you're sitting there baking a cake, you're not listening to what's going on. So they really have to teach that out of you so that you could just stay in the moment. Improv is funniest when you're just in the moment. It's least funny when you try to think about a funny thing to say. It just won't land. It'll seem like you're not connected to what's happening. So that's the term from improv.
Very cool. Yeah.
I've taken 1, 2, and 3 courses multiple times actually.
Improv.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not serious enough to have my own like crew or something like that. But 1 is a great course because it's everybody from corporate America who just wants to get a little bit better at communication. 2 is like some of the best people from that. It's really, really fun. And then you kind of notice your own skills. And then level 3 is people that are serious enough. They want to form their own troupe. And then that was where I was like, oh, like I'm not as serious as you guys at this. So I felt like a little bit out of place. But I'd still go back and, just even start from level 1. It's really fun.
It's a really, it's one of the things I admire about you most is like that approach to personal development. That's feels out of the norm, right? It's not your standard like, read this book or read, these are different paths to learn different skills.
Yeah, it's helped a lot and it's fun. Thanks. I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah, man.
So, all right, I'm still fascinated by the 100 properties per year. I mean, that's just so much. How everybody wants to know, how do you find a contractor that's reliable? Because you've obviously got more than one and you've found a system for finding them, right? Can you tell us a little bit about how you do that?
It happened very organically. I needed paint done at my house. I asked around for a painter, had a guy paint my house, started on talked to him about coming to renovate this property. And it was a horrible experience. We knew that there was water in the HVAC ducts, like on the second level. Weird thing, that's the only house this has ever happened on. I remember saying, hey, we've got to make sure that we get the water out of here because I know the ceiling's going to collapse. They renovate the property, and I come back to a finished property, ceiling's collapsed, water everywhere. So it never got done, and I lost my shit. I lost it, and I was yelling. I mean, I was just so frustrated. And one of the guys on the crew was there, and he said, "Just tell me what needs to get done. None of this has been communicated to me. So tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it." So I started talking to him, and I realized, I said, "Hey, this guy Willie, where's he at? Like, I've told all of this to Willie." He said, "Well, Willie's just the translator. Like, Willie doesn't actually work. He doesn't show up." I said, I understand you just fine. We're communicating perfectly. Why do we need a translator? So that was the start of the relationship. And our contractor, he just painted at the time, and so I was hiring plumbers, and eventually had a plumber that didn't show up for a job, and so I asked Luis, "Hey, do you know how to replace toilets?" He said, "Nope, but I'll figure it out." So it happened organically and slowly to where now he handles everything, top to bottom. When there's a severe issue, he's not going to rewire a house or anything like that. But most things can be handled. We'll outsource HVAC, outsource handful of other things, but it was just a natural evolution, but built on respect and trust. And that's the thing. That's the reason we still work together 5 years later. Is I know his family. I know all of his kids' names. I treat him just the same or better than our employees, and it is a peer-to-peer relationship, and that's helped a lot.
And he doesn't do 100. He does like probably a lot, but you found others as well, right?
He does probably 2/3.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He does 60.
Yeah.
He's completing one every like 5 days.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. And we won't do full.
He'll hire people under him
everything
as well, right?
Yeah, he runs 3 crews of 4, and not all 100 properties are we
full renovations,
right? Some of them are, wholesale. Some of them are minor fixes or other strategies. But out of the 100, it's probably 70 full scale renovations.
Got it.
So he's probably doing around 50.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so great. I had to go through 3 or 4 contractors, but I've had one that's been with me for like 3 years now. So I found a similar type of thing where finally you just have to go through several to click and find somebody that's reliable and price is reasonable and that you get along with.
So 3 years in, have you worked out how he bids or how you guys negotiate the price of each?
Well, he hates doing bids up front, but I insist on it. So he still does it for me. And then it's great because you have a history of like what things cost previously. So you have like a groundwork of, well, the garage door over here costs this much. Why does it cost more now? And he'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. And that data point's really helpful, I think, in comparing. So I always really require the line item bid. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like really important. Is that what you're asking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Standardization of pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 2 years in, I realized, hey, this relationship isn't going to last if we are negotiating on every single house the price.
Yeah, to eliminate the negotiation step every time, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so the price per square foot of paint is the same every, so now it's just based on square footage for most items. And then the items that are not easily standardized, those are the only ones that we'll negotiate, but try to save that relationship equity for when it's really needed.
Yeah.
So that we're not beating each other up on every house.
I have a few questions I wanted to ask everybody, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not all related, so that's why I was giving you a heads up. What would you say if somebody said they're worried about interest rates? Real estate must be a bad investment because the interest rates are high.
Owning real estate for rentals, is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or flipping. I want to make sure I'm tracking or understanding.
Yeah. So it's just an open-ended question. Like if somebody is going to flip, they're going to maybe have to borrow money and the interest rates are higher. If somebody's going to buy the flip, they're going to have to get a mortgage with higher interest rates. So I would say from the perspective of flipping, or you own 60 rentals too, right? What would you say to somebody who's like, well, I'm not getting into real estate now because the interest rates are too high?
Interest rates are going to change. I've not found that is drastically affected things. Like the principles are the same. So if you're underwriting your deals appropriately, right? So if you're borrowing hard money, right? Like work in a realistic time frame and know what the cost of the money is.
Yeah.
Same on your rentals. You have to have a appropriate and realistic underwriting. I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble, or they'll blame, their bad underwriting. So they'll buy a $500,000 property, do a half-ass renovation on it, and blame the fact that it's not selling on interest rates. No, you did a stupid thing by, right, like doing a really high-end house with really cheap, right? So like you've got to have your processes down and understand like what you're going for. Likely the mistake is not on the interest rate, and you can't blame it on the buyer. It's likely a different mistake that's the issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever I was getting into it, I always was jealous of my boss who had 5 rental properties he bought in 2008. I was like, well, of course those make sense because you bought them when the price was right. But then I found people who were buying deals today, and I was like, oh, I need to go off market and look for better deals. And now that I've been doing it for 8 years, people look at my deals and they're like, well, yeah, anybody could have done it 8 years ago when you started. And it's like, no, I said the same thing when I was getting started. It was always better 8 years ago. So you have to start now, and no matter what the interest rate is, you have to find deals that work right now. It's very difficult to time the market and get it perfectly and know what all the factors are going to be like. So you have to find good deals now in the current state of things. Whatever a good deal looks like at that moment, that's what you need to go after. That's what I would say.
Absolutely.
What would you say you would be doing if you hadn't started your wholesaling that led to flipping? What else would you have been doing, do you think?
Some business of some kind. I think I started and failed at seven different businesses.
Really?
So I'm sure I would have found something that maybe worked eventually.
That's incredible. What were the 7 businesses?
Had a used car lot, and I was not a mechanic and didn't know very, very much about cars. But I was flipping cars on the side, and went and got my dealer's license and thought it was a genius idea and fell flat on my face. Did a kind of hybrid like publishing company, advertising company with books for schools. That was a massive failure. Started different door knocking, like selling security, those kind of businesses.
Yeah, ADT type stuff.
Yep.
What mindset do you have that allowed you to eventually be very successful?
Probably an optimist and a lot of self-confidence. So I'll take it on the chin, learn from the mistake. And I almost did not, I remember being very hesitant about getting into real estate investing because the stakes were high, and I bought a list. We had I don't know, $1,100-$1,200 in the account, and I bought a real estate list for like $387.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that without consulting my wife.
Mm.
And I knew if I asked, I knew what the answer was going to be. So I didn't ask. I bought the list, and it was more asking for forgiveness. But I remember the look I got when I bought it, and said, "Here's what I did. Here's what I'm about to go do." And the pressure was high because I couldn't take another failure.
Mm-hmm.
And that first weekend, knocking doors, trying to make calls, make something happen, I almost gave up.
Mm.
And it really came down. The very last name on the list was another 20-minute drive, and I'd basically already given up. I already thought, okay, this is a stupid idea. This isn't going to work. I'm looking at the gas in my truck, how am I gonna, it's another $10 in gas to get out there and back. Do I do it? And I was like, I can't live with myself if I don't cross this last name off. And drove out there to the property, knocked on the door. Lady answered the door, and she said, I've been sitting here praying all day that someone would knock on this door and ask me to sell this house.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. True story. Sounds too good to be true, but that's exactly what she said. And I tried to get in the door, get in the property. She wouldn't let me in, but I got her number. We had a conversation, and then it was 3 days of going back and forth just to try to have the opportunity to meet with them. And finally, I was able to go back to the house when her husband was home, and it worked out, and that was the one that turned into a $5,000 assignment fee.
It's awesome. Paid off the credit cards and took it to the next month where you could do 2.
Exactly.
You told us about one of your lowest lows, several actually. I'm curious if you have a highest high that you might let us in on.
Highest high. One of the things that makes me so fulfilled and brings me a lot of joy is seeing our acquisition manager. He was 21, maybe 22 when I hired him. He had worked at his parents' ice cream shop, and he was in college. I went and did like a college job fair to hire, and he just carried himself differently. Like the way he walked around this job fair, when I saw him, I was like, I want to talk to that dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I missed him the first go around. So I said, no matter what, when he walks back by, I will get his attention and talk to him. And the Vivint guys, the door knocking, like alarm company guys, they were talking to him. I straight up bombed their conversation, interrupted, and got his information. Hired him. That was coming up on 2 years ago. And to see his progress, like the first month was dicey, right? He'd not done this position before.
Yeah.
Wasn't involved in real estate, but he'd been watching podcasts and listening. He had an insatiable desire to learn and practice like relentlessly. Within 6 months, he was really good. Another 6 months, he was great. And he has far surpassed my ability on acquisitions and sales. And he is absolutely a stone cold killer. He just bought a $600,000 house. He's 24, 25 now.
Wow.
Just bought a $600,000 house. He bought a C8 Corvette, making really, really good money. And he deeply cares for people. He does an amazing job, and he crushes it. So one of my highs is seeing his trajectory. And I told him, I know for a fact, okay, we're probably not working together for the next, 10 years, 20 years. Like you're on a trajectory. And I know that, our days are numbered. I'd love to work with you another 5 or 10 years. Hopefully that works out. But if not, like to see where he goes, he will either be, I said, he's either going to be a CEO of a massive company, or he'll be the guy to start that massive company, or he'll be, in Africa, like serving kids and digging wells for no money. I don't know where he's headed, but he's going to do great things.
It's great to have him on your team through that journey.
Yeah.
Good job finding him.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to most this year?
Figuring out the new pacing. We just went through a major change, and trying to get I've got a board in my office, and I just put a quote up there that says, revenue is for vanity, profit is for sanity. So 24, great numbers gross, not great on the net profit. So shifting that to where our gross is going to be down, but our net profit will be higher. So learning the different paths, slightly different marketing strategies to achieve that goal.
How can your team fix the profit, like in their roles?
I'm looking at this from kind of an 80-20 rule. We had 18 and we let 10 people go. So we kept seven on, but those 7 were doing 80% of the work. So
good thing you kept them.
Right. Yeah. So everyone's had to take on a little bit more responsibility, but the chaos and the noise has decreased so much that we can really pivot quickly. And I think this year will be a year where we will need to pivot quickly and change as the market changes.
Got it. Well, congratulations on getting, it seems like, very efficient with your business, and that's exciting to roll into a year like that. We had 50, we went down to 32 employees, not with like a big moment, but over time just didn't replace people. And then had to have active conversations about, hey, you're not expected to do more, but you are expected to prioritize what is the most important thing for you to be working on. And if you have a question about that, let me know. That was one thing I had to get in front of when people were like, well, aren't you going to pay me twice as much now that I'm doing 2 jobs? No, I don't need you to do that work. That's why that person's not here. It wasn't driving anything forward. Just prioritize what's the most important thing. The last question I wanted to ask you was on the data side. We've really grown like 44% last year because of new data that we've been able to offer in the app and stuff that we have, but it's not even been pushed into the app. Is there any type of magic wand if I could wave it that would solve some data issue for you? I know Chad Young was like, I need to find double lots. I need to find these infill lots. Someone else was like wanting the agents in their market to do agent outreach. They wanted them prioritized by listings last year and give personal phone numbers, info, and LinkedIn profile. So those are a few examples I have delivered, free of charge as I'm trying to learn what's most useful. Is there anything that comes to mind data-wise?
I've watched a couple of your videos about AI and automating elements of lead gen.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious. Curious the implementation of AI and maybe that ties into, it's AI then to direct mail or AI to some kind of, human touch.
Yeah. So 3 things come to mind. The thing about AI, a lot of people will say, well, this is an AI list, but I'm not really sure what's going on behind the scenes. So very practically, you can analyze Google images and have AI tell you if it's distressed or not, right? And then it can build that list very fast, just like driving for dollars, but just faster and no $10 to go to the house and find it. So that's like one thing that we could help with. Paul Myers was paying like $11,000 for premium data from one of these companies. He's like, can you guys use AI to like generate this for me? So he paid like $800 and we put his last 40 deals in, and we had the AI look at photos, consumer data of the owners, and also property, data, and say, build us a list of 10,000 houses that you think would most likely be able to sell based on these are the past deals that he bought, and so I know he got a deal right away from that, and that was I haven't checked in with him on that, but that's something that we can do, right? We can certainly do that. And then the third thing, we haven't had AI make phone calls, but that when you're making phone calls, the AI can take notes, the AI can summarize, the AI can change the lead status to the appropriate indicator. The AI can also leave a voicemail that sounds like you, that doesn't take any of your time, but it improves your numbers, like kind of throughput, connectivity rate, because T-Mobile, AT&T, they mark calls as spam because they don't want their customers leaving because they're getting too many spam calls. Their algorithm looks at spammy behavior, which is like short duration calls and low connectivity rate. Those multi-line dialers, they dial 5 people and they hang up on 4 and just connect it with 1. So, that the AI voicemail is something we built to make the dialing that a human does more efficient. I just don't think AI is good enough to have the whole phone call by itself and waste a good lead, turn somebody off like that. I think that's not quite there yet. But those are 3 things that come to mind when you're asking about AI.
Future looks really cool. I suspect things will change rapidly with integrating AI.
Yeah, and then the cost of the AI is coming down as well.
Yeah.
So even like when we first built the thing that looks at the Google images, we had to charge 2 cents per house analyzed because that's literally the cost of the compute to have it go look at the satellite and the front image and all that. But those models are coming down. So we're going to lower that price soon, and I think it'll just continue to go down. And so that's exciting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I've got to look into that.
Well, if there's anything in particular you want, let me know.
Okay.
I'll deliver it. on a silver platter for you.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. I feel special now.
Yeah,
Thanks, man.
absolutely, man. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.